And there is a big cricket story inside a lot of the newspapers. The headline in the Mirror: England's big Aussie tour could be called off if families are barred. Gideon Brooks writes in the Mirror, England players have doubts about playing in this winter's Ashes if Australia refuse to allow families to tour. Now, the players, the PCA and the ECB are set for talks this week about potential COVID restrictions that are down under. Now, sources within the England dressing room have admitted a number of players with young families are considering their priorities. Australia, of course, has some of the strictest COVID protocols in the world. Now, just before, Laura, the Ashes this winter, there is a T20 World Cup. So multi-format players like Ben Stokes, Josh Buttler, Jofra Archer, they could be away for about 5 months because they'll go straight from the T20 World Cup in the UAE, straight to Australia, 5 months. And as things stand at the moment, families won't be allowed in Australia. And there are some talks, some rumours that some players don't want to go to Australia. What do you think about all this, Laura? Do you think they should just get on with it, they're representing their country, or do you just think we have to at some point say enough is enough? These guys are human beings with families. It's unsustainable.
I don't think it's a normal situation for anyone at the moment, is it? Going over there, it's not like it's 5 months and it's going to be normal regulations. You're in a bubble, right? So you're limited, even more limited.
It'll be bubble as well, yeah.
I think it messes with your mind. I mean, I've never been in that sort of situation before, but reading what these guys have written before and what happens in that kind of setup, I just don't think, I wouldn't want to force anyone into doing anything they didn't want to do, especially if they can't see the families. Hasn't Jofra Archer got who's got
Josh Butler's got a new young, and a lot of these guys in Butler, so they've all got kids. They've got young kids at home, you know.
5 months, that's a long time to do that.
Obviously all the single lads will be going, yeah, let's go. But
right, they're in a bubble.
It's the bubble life as well. So for some younger guys, it's hard for them as well, because you're right, in normal times, a couple months in Australia for a young kid would be brilliant, but where they're allowed to go, how often they're allowed to go out, they could be stuck in cricket ground to hotel room, you know?
I think the team sport, you won't be allowed out nowhere. You know, I was nearly going to Orlando, and that was going to be the question with me, that I was with the bubble for 3 or 4 days, but as soon as I step out of it, I can't go nowhere near that, you know, the players again. So you just got to come to a term to say, well, okay, I think everybody will sit down and make a big decision, and they've got to have a vote on it. I'm sure people say they want to go, and other players will say they don't want to go. And if it's the right decision, no one can really question them, can they? I mean, it's a difficult situation because the Ashes is such a massive event and huge for cricket, but players are players, and if you know, it's a really hard time for everybody at the moment, with especially travelling restrictions and what we have to do.
Is there an option? I mean, you're the cricket expert, so you'll be able to tell me more. But to do more rotation with things like this.
What, in terms of the schedule?
Not even the schedule, maybe the personnel.
Well, so what I was going to say is, in terms of the solution to this, I'm not an expert in what's going on in Australia, but I don't see their guidelines changing, so I'm not sure if families will be allowed over. I don't see the Ashes being postponed in such a big event. So for me then, the only possible solution is England do something very similar with what they did in India earlier this year, where some players will play the first 3 matches, then go home. For me, I think, is probably the only solution. So therefore, the ECB could say to the players, you'll be away from home. Don't you need your best team? God, of course you do, right? I mean, England went to India earlier this year, which is probably a harder test than Australia. Joe Root didn't have his strongest 11.
Does it have to be in Australia, the Ashes?
Yeah. Look, firstly, it's the winter, so it obviously couldn't be in England. And
but I'm saying a neutral place where it's a little bit easier.
I don't think so. I think part of the challenge is going over to Australia, playing on Australia wickets. That's what makes it so tough for England players. So I think you're right, Laura. Looking at it right now, unless something drastic was to change, the only solution would be, you know, that the lads that play both tournaments, they'll definitely play World Cup. Some will play the first 2, let's say. Some will then swap over and play the last 3.
Have we got a big enough squad to do that?
Yeah, we've got enough strength in depth. A fully strength England 11 will probably lose in Australia because it's such a hard place to go. They're such a good team, and it would just be a shame when it is an Ashes. It's like in football. It's like in a World Cup race.
Would that be the excuse though if you lost the Ashes? So, we had to rotate our squad, and there's always a doubt then, isn't there? I think you've got to have your best team, or you don't do it. It's one of them situations.
talkSPORT Breakfast with Laura Woods, Monday to Wednesday morning 6 till 10. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.